All right, is it time to fire Todd Bowles? That is the question. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that last season, about 2/3 of the way through the year, I thought they should have just fired him then. So you know where I kind of stand on this. But I want to get into the film here and talk about what went wrong for Tampa Bay defensively. I already made a whole video on what went right for CJ Stroud. Definitely check that one out on this channel if you haven't already. But I want to focus on the defense now, focus on the defensive coaching and just, in general, what went wrong. This play is an important one to talk about to start things off. In many ways, this was a personnel issue, and I know that's not what people want to hear, right? You want to hear, no, it's all coaching if you're a Tampa Bay fan, but no, personnel was a real issue here where Jamel Dean got injured early on, and they put in Zion McCollum right here, who's going to be defending, a slant route from Noah Brown over the middle. It's a one-on-one matchup. And really, so Zion McCollum, he was a 5th-round pick last year and really did not look good at all when he came in and got playing time. Despite that, Tampa Bay felt like in a bigger role, he could maybe take a step forward. They gave him the number 3 corner spot this year, and he's looked like he did last year for the most part. Like, watch as, right when this play begins, you see McCollum is going to get beat really quickly off the line. I wouldn't even say really quickly, but quickly off the line, right? In the 2.5 seconds that you get as a quarterback, typically before pressure comes, you have a receiver who's wide open. It's a tough route to defend for sure, but it's wide open here. Of course, Stroud, not going to miss that, gets it over to Noah Brown. I mean, you have to give credit to Brown, right? He had a great game. You have to give him credit. At the same time, though, this was an issue for Tampa Bay, is they didn't have receivers they felt like could man up against the defenders for Houston. And we've seen this happen over the years with Todd Bowles, is that his teams, when playing man coverage, tend to be very good. They tend to be very good at man coverage. When they play zone, though, it's not so good. And when they don't have the guys to just man up against the receivers, which, again, I don't want to make it seem like, Houston's some scrubs out there. It's hard to defend those guys, for sure. Like, part of the issue was who they were going up against, 100%. But because they didn't have the guys who could man up, well, then they had to play a lot more zone. So let's talk about some zone. First, this one, and this is kind of what went wrong for Tampa Bay and what went right for Houston is I think Houston kind of looked around and said, hey, if you're just going to play one coverage, well, we're going to game plan against it. This one, you have a receiver who's going to run a deeper route, and then the one that I've circled the end of in white, that over the middle route, that's the one that can often get open, especially with a play action, can hopefully get linebackers to move in and then throw over the top of them, and with the safety and corner hopefully going deep with the deeper route. Like, watch as when it begins, you're going to see, I'm really going to highlight the 2 receivers who are deep. So the receiver who's running just a clear out route on, closer towards the bottom of the screen, he's taken that corner out of the play. He's out of the play. So now there's this over the middle situation. And really in this spot, I mean, I don't even know if I would say that this is like awful defense by the players themselves. I think you would like to see the safety crash in a little bit more here for sure. But, Lamonte David, the linebacker, doing a pretty good job of staying relatively deep. I mean, doing what he can, certainly. The main issue at this point is that for Houston, if you know what the opposing team is doing, it's pretty easy to game plan for that. As you see, we're going to, Stroud makes the throw, and this is not great by Tampa Bay, not being able to make these tackles. Definitely have to find a way to make those tackles. So, and again, got to give credit to Noah Brown for breaking the tackles and all of that stuff. So that's where can't blame Bowles for that stuff, right? That's just, good job, Houston, bad job, Tampa Bay. But the broader point of, really, I mean, it's not all on Bowles here in this situation, but when they know what you're doing, they can game plan for it. Also going over here, so what's going to happen is it's going to be a zone coverage play. What you do is you have 2 receivers towards the offenses right here for Houston. Noah Brown's going to run a deeper route over the middle to get the safety out of position. Then you have another deep route. It'll be a one-on-one matchup on the outside. Watch as when you see Stroud takes the snap, the receiver that Stroud wants to throw to, Tank Dell, making a nice move here, kind of faking as though he's going over the middle, which freezes Carlton Davis. Stroud notices this, and so he's going to say, let's put it in that direction. As you see, he is going to fire it over Davis's head. Carlton Davis has to be better. He just does. And Davis isn't a great zone corner. He isn't. He's a great man corner and an okay zone corner. That's kind of been his history. And again, when you're in a situation where you kind of feel like you have to do one thing, well, that happens. But if we're going over to coaching, let's go over to this. I'm using the broadcast angle just to set up the situation. So the situation is going to be key here, as I'm not even really talking about a play, just talking about the specific situation. It is, a first and goal. Tampa Bay, they had a completion, and then there was a fumble. Mike Evans recovered the fumble, but they wanted to review it, so they stopped the clock right here. But this is the situation. 37 seconds left. Tampa Bay has one timeout, and you just have a first and goal at the 10. They reviewed it, and it stood, so still first and goal. Weirdly, so here's what happened, and also they waited until this point and then stopped the clock, so I don't know why there needs to be a 10-second runoff. They could have just used that point when the ball was about to get snapped, but regardless, that's what they do. It needs to be either a 10-second runoff or Tampa Bay, the offense, can take a timeout. They get one of those two options. Todd Bowles, instead of taking the 10-second runoff, which would have given them still, about 30 seconds to make a play, right? Plenty of time still, and a timeout, first and goal. You want 4 plays to be run. You have time to run 4 plays there, and actually, you probably have a little bit of an easier time to make sure you get 4 plays if you have that timeout. So, bit of an odd call just from that perspective, but it actually ended up being brutal because of what would happen when they were trying to play defense. So, going over here, this is really a disaster because you look at Zion McCollum right here. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know the assignment on this play. He's going back, and maybe it's not him. Maybe it's the player further deep. But there's communication issues. They don't know exactly where they need to be on this specific play. In a typical scenario, if you see this, what do? If you're a head coach, you call a timeout. You say, okay, this play is super important as there's 20 seconds left. Houston's just got the midfield. Let's, do what we can, right? However, because they already burned their last timeout to save 10 seconds that they didn't need on that last drive, they now have 0 timeouts left and don't have an opportunity to call a timeout here when they desperately need to call one. That's the concept. That's what they're going to try and do right here. You have a receiver go in between Zion McCollum and D. Delaney. Tank Dell is the receiver, and that's just a mismatch. Tank Dell is, significantly better than McCollum and Delaney, who are really both depth pieces. That's what they are. Watch as, though, when Stroud takes the snap, neither McCollum or Delaney are picking up Tank Dell here. And, who should be picking them up? Honestly, both of them. Honestly, if you're not sure, cover the deep guy in this scenario. That's what you should be doing. So the fact that neither one of them is picking up Tank Dell is an absolute blunder. And again, these are guys who haven't played a lot with each other, right? They haven't. I mean, you have D. Delaney in a safety role here. That's not what he's used to, which is, something you could also argue could be a criticism. He's someone throughout the most of his career in Tampa Bay has been more of a corner, but playing safety on this one. And it's an error. This should never have happened. And again, for CJ Stroud, clearly he's a young player, but he's too good of a player at this stuff to be making this mistakes. He's too good of a player to be doing this stuff against him. Watch him throw. Really an absolute strike. Again, great stuff from Tank Dell, great stuff from Stroud, but know who you're going up against. Know that those are the 2 guys that you're going up against. I don't care whose responsibility it was. Someone had to know that. My guess, typically on those plays, in a traditional sense, you're going to want to have the corner stay deep. So if I had to guess, I would put that more on McCollum than Delaney, but I don't know. I'm not in the huddle. I have no idea whose fault it really was. Only the people in that room know. But also the fact that they didn't know what they were doing on that play is it's a disastrous thing to happen. And it does happen sometimes in a hurry up situation, which is why you want to make sure you have timeouts there. So mistake by Todd Bowles. And, you definitely have to criticize him, especially when there's already so many things you just kind of have to accept with Todd Bowles. You have to accept the game management isn't going to be great. The time management isn't going to be great. The offensive mindset isn't going to be great. All those things you just have to accept. The one thing you usually get is great defensive coaching. And when you're not getting that either, it's hard to, feel too confident with him as a head coach. That's kind of how I view it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.